Well, today we are going to do part 2 of our Clay 101 series, and we are talking about the 5 basic tools that you need so you can start playing with polymer clay. Stay tuned and see what they are. All right, in talking about the basic tools you need to get started in polymer clay, let's start at the bottom with our work surface. If you've followed my channel for very long, you know that I almost always work on top of a ceramic tile. This is a ceramic floor tile. They're very inexpensive. I paid less than $1 for this a couple of years ago at Lowe's, and it's so durable. I love these. I've been working on ceramic tiles for years and years. I do not only my clay on top of this, but I do my painting, my gluing, just about everything. They're durable because they're made to go on your floor. They're smooth and easy to clean. Again, because they're made to be on the floor, they have to be easy to clean. I do recommend that you get a very smooth tile. Don't get one with texture. And get a neutral color, a beige, a gray. Those colors are going to be better. This is kind of a gray and white marble, but it's not a stark white. If I put something white against it, you can see the difference. It's not a stark white. It's a little bit off-white. A neutral color will help you to see the true colors of your clay and be able to get a good idea of what color the clay will turn out. Now, some other options. You could work on parchment paper. I know a lot of people work on a sheet of parchment paper. My problem with that is it always wrinkles and it always runs away from me when I'm trying to work. But if that's all you've got, go for it. What I wouldn't recommend is working directly on your table, whether it's wood or plastic. If it's a wood table and it's got any kind of finish on it, raw polymer clay will eat through the finish and make spots in your finish that are very hard to fix. It can also leach out oils into the wood and make marks that you cannot get rid of. Plastics, many plastics can be eaten by polymer clay, so you have to be careful about what plastics come in contact with your clay. And light-colored craft tables many times will stain from dark-colored clays. So those are my thoughts on where to start at the base, what to work on. Let's go on to the next thing. All right, once you have a safe surface to work on your clay, one of the things that we do most often is roll it out. Now my preference is one of these acrylic rod clay rollers. It's made, they're usually marketed by Sculpey. They're available any place you can buy clay. And they're very useful. This one I've had for years and years and years and years, and it's still just as good as it was the day I got it. They are so durable. They're easy to clean. This one does need some cleaning, but they are very easy to keep clean, and they store very well. And they're not going to react with your clay, and they're smooth, so they won't leave any marks. When I started out, I used one of these. This is a jar that capers come in. It's a nice long tube-shaped jar. It's only got some little writing down here, and other than that, it's smooth. So it's a good surface. It's nice and clean. I did take the label off and make sure that it was nice and clean. And this too is a good alternative. You can use any jar. I like the caper jars because they're a good size. Any glass jar will work. Just make sure it's got straight sides and no imprinting on it. There is an advantage to this over this though. You can take the lid, maybe you can take the lid off there. You can take the lid off and store some of your texturing tools in there. And we will talk about texturing tools in a future video. Now, what would I not recommend? I know a lot of people use a wooden dowel or a little wooden rolling pin. I wouldn't recommend that because I don't like the texture that leaves in my clay. If I'm rolling my clay out, I want to roll out a nice smooth surface and add texture myself, not be adding texture with whatever I'm rolling with. So those are my thoughts on what to roll the clay with. Let's see what we need to talk about next. All right, we've talked about our work surface. We've talked about how to roll our clay out. Now the next thing we need to do is cut our clay. So my preference is one of these clay blades. They're marketed by the Sculpey people, the same people who make Sculpey 3 and Sculpey Primo and those clays, the same place that markets the roller that I showed you. I love these blades. They're long. I like the ones that don't have any kind of barrier on the top, so I can cut any thickness of clay. You can just go down through. You could cut a piece of clay that was a foot tall if you wanted to. Just take the clay down. No barrier. I like the length because I'm not limited by a short width of blade. A lot of people, especially starting out, use a razor blade, and they're fine. They are very thin. That's another advantage to these blades. They're a very thin blade, and so are these. So you get a good, sharp, accurate cut. The couple of things I don't like about razor blades is you are limited in how deep your clay can be, because you can't go above that little protective part there. And they're not very long, so your width of your clay is more limited. As far as buying tools, this clay blade is the thing I recommend you buy first. If you're only going to buy one actual polymer clay tool, make it one of these blades. It'll make your life so much easier and make doing clay so much more fun. All right, so we've got a surface to work on. We've rolled our clay out, we've cut it. Let's go on to what our baking surface choices are. All right, so we've got our work surface, we've rolled our clay out, we've cut our clay. Now we need to bake our clay. So for that, my preference is a paper plate, just one of these plain, undecorated, plain paper plates, the kind that are really thin and not really good for putting food on because food soaks into these and these bend. They're perfect for baking clay on. They give a nice matte finish to the bottom side of the clay. And you can make notes on here if you're doing an experiment with your clay. Maybe you're mixing different colors. You can write your formulas so you can kind of keep track of what you're doing. They're great when you're working with a group of people. Everybody can label their plate and they know exactly which is their project. Sometimes I also bake on my work tile. That will give a shiny bottom, and sometimes that's an advantage. I also sometimes throw a piece of kitchen parchment paper on here if I don't want things to stick. Paper is safe to use at the temperatures we bake our clay at, because clay will actually burn at a much lower temperature than the paper will catch fire. So it's okay. I've been using them for a couple of decades, and I love paper plates. I'm a big supporter of using paper plates. So let's talk about one more item. All right, and the final item on my list of basic tools is actually a simple package of wet wipes. These are really handy to have at your craft table anyway, but especially working with clay, because you need to clean the clay off of your tools, your work surface, your hands, and wet wipes do just that. If possible, try to get the ones that are not meant for sensitive skin, because the ones that are not meant for sensitive skin tend to have a little bit of some kind of a rubbing alcohol type ingredient, and that is better for cutting the clay and cleaning it up. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure and hit the like button. Be sure and leave me a comment. What are your questions about working with polymer clay? I want to tailor this series to all of you. So if you've got particular questions, I'd love to work those into a video. If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up my next video, and I will talk to you later. Bye.